Gene I'd known for many years, but we'd never worked together. And he was in a mood at that time. He says, I don't want to do any more violent pictures. First place, he's famous for his idiosyncrasies, but he was the most powerful guy in the country for a long time. But so he did. He reread it and he came back and said, yeah, okay, I'll do this.
Hollywood may seem like a family, but Clint Eastwood knows better. 5 names burned bridges with him long ago. What started as misunderstandings became full-blown conflicts. And after years of silence, Eastwood hints at the behind-the-scenes truths that broke these relationships beyond repair. You won't believe how these stories unfold, and the last reveal may shock even his biggest fans. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Number 1, Michael Moore. Clint Eastwood has never been one to sugarcoat his opinions. Known for his straightforward demeanor and firm beliefs, he's built a career and a reputation on saying exactly what he thinks. So when filmmaker Michael Moore's activism began to dominate headlines in the early 2000s, it didn't take long for Eastwood to take notice and take issue. At the center of their clash was Moore's polarizing documentary, Bowling for Columbine, which took a hard swing at gun culture in America and criticized the NRA in ways some found bold, others found abrasive. For Eastwood, a vocal supporter of individual liberties and Second Amendment rights, this wasn't just a disagreement, it was personal. The tension between the two wasn't just ideological, it quickly became very public. After Moore famously took on figures like Charlton Heston in his film, Eastwood responded in his signature sharp style. In fact, during an awards ceremony speech, Eastwood openly joked that if Moore ever showed up at his door with a camera, he'd shoot him. Though the comment was made with a smirk, it underscored the deep divide between them. Eastwood's disdain wasn't rooted simply in Moore's opinions, but in the filmmaker's methods, ones Eastwood viewed as confrontational and, at times, disrespectful. Their opposing philosophies on activism and American values seemed irreconcilable, and for Eastwood, someone who values respect above all else, Moore's brashness was a line crossed. Speaking of conflict, Eastwood's next feud touched on an equally passionate topic: representation in storytelling. Number 2, Spike Lee. Clint Eastwood has solidified his place as a master filmmaker, but his career hasn't been without controversy. One of his most publicized disputes involved Spike Lee, another celebrated director with a very different approach to storytelling. The tension began in 2008 after Lee critiqued Eastwood's World War II films Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. Lee specifically called out the lack of black soldiers depicted, pointing to their significant contributions during the war. For Lee, this wasn't just a cinematic critique, it was a question of representation and historical accuracy. Eastwood, known for his blunt nature, quickly fired back. In an interview, he defended his creative decisions, stating the films were based on specific stories, not intended as comprehensive historical accounts. "I'm not going to add things that didn't happen just to make it look better," he said, a sharp rejection of Lee's critique. Eastwood's focus on individual experiences over broad historical perspectives illustrated the fundamental difference between the two directors' approaches. But the feud didn't stop with criticisms about representation. Lee, whose films often tackle social and political issues head-on, contrasted sharply with Eastwood's more restrained and character-driven style. Each saw the other's approach as flawed, and their public jabs only magnified the divide. Whether it was artistic license or ideological rift, this clash left little room for reconciliation. Yet as contentious as this was, Eastwood's clashes with Hollywood's leading men would prove just as complex. Number 3, Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the most celebrated actors of his generation, known for his intense preparation and deep commitment to each role. But when he stepped onto the set of J. Edgar, he quickly discovered that Clint Eastwood's old-school directing style didn't leave much room for lengthy rehearsals or methodical explorations. Eastwood had been directing for decades by that point, and his reputation for fast-paced, efficient filmmaking was well earned. On his sets, multiple takes were rare, and the mantra was simple: less is more. For DiCaprio, whose process emphasizes detailed character research and experimentation, this created a natural friction. The tension between Eastwood and DiCaprio largely stemmed from their vastly different approaches to their craft, shaped by the eras they represent. Eastwood, a veteran of classic Hollywood, had spent decades perfecting a lean, improvisational style. He wasn't interested in dissecting every scene through exhaustive rehearsals. DiCaprio, by contrast, approached his portrayal of J. Edgar Hoover with a modern intensity, needing time to explore every nuance and uncover the subtleties of a historically complex character. The two clashed over how best to achieve their shared goal, leaving moments of frustration on both sides. Despite the critical attention J. Edgar received, their creative differences left a lasting impression on Eastwood. For him, the production highlighted a growing gap between Hollywood's fastidious new wave of stars and his no-nonsense methods. Speaking of Hollywood's shift, another tension would soon arise, this time with comedy front and center. Number 4. Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen has become a defining face of modern comedy, irreverent, carefree, and unapologetically offbeat. For audiences, his unique humor feels fresh, but for a Hollywood veteran like Clint Eastwood, it's a style that represents everything wrong with the industry's evolution. Eastwood, who built his career in a time when comedy played second fiddle to more serious genres, has often been dismissive of Hollywood's shift toward lighter, often cruder storytelling. While Eastwood hasn't publicly targeted Rogen directly, his broader critiques of the industry's changing standards make the tension between their styles easy to see. Eastwood's traditional stance on filmmaking has always leaned towards substance and grit. His frustration with modern Hollywood has surfaced in numerous interviews, where he's lamented the rise of films relying heavily on cheap laughs at the expense of depth. Rogen's breakout hits like Pineapple Express and Superbad epitomize this brand of humor, blending slapstick with raunchy, irreverent dialogue, elements far removed from Eastwood's cut-to-the-chase storytelling. For Eastwood, whose career is defined by meticulous precision and emotional weight, films like Rogen's might seem like the antithesis of real artistry. It's not just about comedy though. Rogen, as a symbol of this new wave, represents a cultural shift in priorities, a move Eastwood has hinted at rejecting time and time again. While they may never have worked together, the philosophies they each embody already ensure they're unlikely to share much common ground, and Eastwood's thoughts only sharpen when it comes to those he worked alongside. Number 5. Gene Hackman. Clint Eastwood and Gene Hackman were a dream team at the height of their careers when they came together in 1992 for Unforgiven. Eastwood directed and starred in the Western masterpiece, while Hackman delivered a commanding performance as the brutal sheriff Little Bill Daggett. Their collaboration resulted in critical acclaim, multiple Oscars, and a film now considered one of the greatest in its genre. At the time, the pair seemed like a natural creative fit, two Hollywood legends with mutual respect for each other. But behind the scenes on Unforgiven, rumors swirled that their differences ran much deeper than anyone guessed. Hackman was famously meticulous, striving for perfection in every scene. Known for his multiple takes and deliberate preparations, he threw himself into every role with an obsessive level of focus. Eastwood, on the other hand, had a starkly different approach behind the camera. As a director, he valued speed and efficiency, often wrapping scenes in just a handful of takes. This divide in work styles reportedly led to moments of creative tension on set. While Hackman pushed for refinements, Eastwood preferred to move forward, trusting instincts over repetition. Despite the film's enormous success, these differences didn't mend. Hackman's insistence on precision clashed with Eastwood's philosophy of simplicity, creating a quiet strain between the two. Clint Eastwood's career has spanned decades, marked by iconic films, critical acclaim, and unforgettable partnerships. But as we've seen, not every collaboration ends in harmony. Behind the scenes, there have been creative clashes, ideological divides, and personalities too different to bridge. Yet through it all, Eastwood's longevity in Hollywood speaks volumes. Known for his respect toward crews, he knows every person's name on set, from the caterers to the electricians. His approach commands loyalty and admiration, even as personal rifts arise. So what do you think? Do these conflicts reflect the price of artistic passion or simply human nature? Let us know.